How do you calculate inheritance tax in the UK? Hi, I'm Jasmine from Redwood Financial. We're a family-owned and run chartered financial planning and estate planning firm based in Hampshire, and we've been helping clients in this area for over 20 years. Now, calculating inheritance tax can seem like a very daunting prospect, but it doesn't have to be. There is lots of information out there on our website, including our inheritance tax planning webinar, which will be really useful for you to understand not just how you calculate inheritance tax, but also what you can do to mitigate it. But when it comes to calculating it, if you are the executor of an estate, you have the legal responsibility to provide all of those calculations and crunch those numbers as part of the probate process and declare all of that to HMRC. Now, the first thing that you need to do when calculating inheritance tax is you need to value and total up all of the deceased's worldwide assets. That's a first really important point. Inheritance tax is levied not just on the UK assets that an individual held, but their worldwide assets. So that includes any foreign property, business, or assets that are held abroad. So absolutely everything has to be added up together to give you the total estate value. After that, you then need to take off any reliefs and allowances that might be able to be claimed. Now, there are some reliefs and allowances that are going to be specific to particular asset classes. For example, some business assets, some agricultural assets might qualify for inheritance tax relief. But then you also have to take off the standard inheritance tax-free allowances that most of us should be able to claim. Now, pretty much all of us in the UK should be able to claim the full nil rate band allowance. Now, as an individual, the nil rate band allowance is currently £325,000. And for those of us that meet the criteria, if we have a property and we have direct descendants, i.e. children, grandchildren, then we might also be able to claim the residential nil rate band allowance. This is an additional tax-free allowance which is attached to the value of your main residence, and that's valued at £175,000. So as a single individual, I have a £325,000 nil rate band allowance, and if I qualify, a £175,000 residential nil rate band allowance. And that means with those two allowances together, I have in total £500,000 of tax-free allowances. And my estate value above £500,000 would then be subject to inheritance tax at 40%. As a married couple, obviously we have transferable allowances. So on second death, if we were married and we've inherited our spouse's allowances, it means that as a couple, we potentially have £1 million of tax-free allowances to utilise, before which inheritance tax will then become payable at the rate typically of 40%. But there are, as I say, reliefs and deductions, as well as gifts to charity that are also exempt from inheritance tax that go into that calculation. It's a really important process as part of probate, and it's important to make sure that as executors you get those calculations correct. If you calculate the inheritance tax liability incorrectly, you will be personally liable for the inheritance tax that is owed to HMRC. So if you are in doubt, it is always better to seek professional advice. Make sure you get proper valuations and you have a professional check the figures and the calculations before you disclose them to HMRC. There's lots more information on our website, as I say, about inheritance tax and also the ways to mitigate inheritance tax. And if that's important to you, don't hesitate to get in touch and have a complimentary call back with one of our advisors who would be happy to answer any questions you have on this area.